History measures the blizzard of '93 in many ways. 70-mile-an-hour winds, several feet of snow, and tens of thousands of power outages. But the storm of the century is also measured in months, 9 of them.
I found out I was pregnant, and I went back and I went, wow, this was the night of the blizzard.
Jay and Lisa Blevins were snowed in and they stayed warm. Baby, it was cold outside all across East Tennessee, where people may not have had power, but there was still plenty of electricity.
We knew that we saw the effects of the blizzard.
Leslie Franham and the nurses at UT Medical Center saw the blizzard baby boom firsthand. Hospitals all across East Tennessee reported nearly double the amount of deliveries of a normal December.
Yes, we were definitely a lot busier than usual during that time.
I mean, there were so many babies being born, they didn't have enough rooms for the moms.
When the blizzard happened, the nurses were like counting up 40 weeks from then because they wanted to know when there was going to be so many babies.
The blizzard came, and he's a result of it, and he's an early Christmas present.
This is the onesie I was wearing the hospital gave me. I'm Daniel Blevins, and I'm a blizzard baby. I can't believe it just made me say that.
No, he's not a baby. He is 6'3", 220 pounds.
I don't really tell the story too often. That's not the first thing I go and tell somebody, obviously.
And despite Daniel's best efforts, that blizzard baby nickname remains frozen in time.
He played some college football at Murrow College, and the coaches got word of him being a blizzard baby.
All my football coaches call me Blizzard, not Daniel Blevins, it's Blizzard. So.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people think, oh, he was born in the blizzard. I was like, no, he was made in the blizzard. And then, my dad likes to make weird comments about it. He doesn't like it.
Oh my gosh, when is this ever going to end? Is what he says. But he's a good sport about it.
So, I mean, it's a cool story. Appreciate you guys just coming out here and covering it being...
No, you don't.
I'm just trying to be nice.
So any measure of the blizzard of '93 has to include an avalanche of babies that ensure the storm of the century will last a lifetime.
Blizzard baby. This is our blizzard baby.
In Blount County, Jim Matheny, WBIR 10 News.
It was incredible the number of things Knoxville made for the whole nation.
Reflect on the vacant mill just beside downtown Knoxville. And historian Jack Neely can spin a yarn about the past, where for more than a century, textiles told the tale of the city's economy.
At one time there were 13 textile mills in Knoxville. It was enormous. We're looking at the old Standard Knitting Mill. This is actually a later addition to knitting mill, which has been here since about 1900 or so. It was the single biggest employer in Knoxville at one time. 3,500 people worked here. Claimed to be the biggest textile manufacturing plant in America.
For Standard Knitting and many other mills in town, the long and short of it was underwear.
Yeah, well, Knoxville was the underwear capital, and it was because of all the underwear manufactured. They made mainly undergarments, t-shirts, underwear, long johns, union suits, they called them in those days, socks, 3 different hosiery mills at one time. They made, I think, 43 million garments a year, just some incredible number.
Knoxville had the workforce and the railroads to stitch and ship the latest styles across the country. In the 1930s, that included the latest bombshell design of jockey shorts that could make every man resemble the brawny Tarzan. While that's some bold embroidery on the benefits of briefs, it's no fabrication to say Knoxville Mills truly supported the troops.
They ramp up production during wars, especially during World War II.
Knoxville plants landed huge government contracts to cover the military by weaving thermal underwear for warmth, and millions of white cotton t-shirts and boxer shorts, especially appreciated by those trying to keep cool in the South Pacific.
The physical depression of the tropics. This air crew member recommends t-shirts under the regulation shirt or as outer garments by themselves.
It's likely that anybody that was in the World War II was wearing something manufactured in Knoxville.
Now, after the war, some of the mills here in Knoxville kept cranking out products for the military, but by the mid-1950s, many of the mills here were just hanging on by a thread. And some of the biggest operations, including Appalachian Mills, which was located right here on 17th Street, had to shut down in 1956.
Yeah, Knoxville actually lost 10% of its population in the 1950s.
While most of the mills unraveled, Standard Knitting Mill saw success by stitching one of the nation's most popular brands.
The Health Knit brand, which you saw all over the country, was all manufactured right here.
Sales for Standard soared during an era when men could double their comfort with cigarettes and Health Knit tighty-whities. Then the brand threaded its way into a new market of colorful expression in the 1960s and 70s.
We forget that t-shirts were just underwear for a long time. They were all white until about the late 1960s, and you started seeing pictures on t-shirts. And a lot of the cool new t-shirts with like Keep On Truckin' and Mickey Mouse and all these things the hippies were wearing, they made those here. There's a hip side to underwear manufacturing.
While most industries are forced to lay off workers, Standard has been lucky.
But even a behemoth like Standard Knitting Mill could not avoid the seismic shift unfolding overseas. After a series of layoffs in the mid-1980s, new ownership took over the mill in 1988.
Standard Knitting Mill sold out to Delta Apparel. Workers were hoping Delta would save their jobs.
It only took a few months for Delta to go from talking about new expansions in Knoxville to hanging hundreds of employees out to dry.
These employees were told just this morning that in 60 days they would be out of work.
It's reprehensible the way this company has behaved.
I think it stinks.
We spent and raised our kids in this mill. That's the saddest part. Leaving all your friends behind.
Workers at the old Standard Knitting Mill sewed their last stitches on August 11th, 1989. Since then, many of the other old mills in town have become home to new businesses. But Standard has struggled to find suitors for this sprawling space, a place that still offers a reflection of the past, when mills intertwined to support the nation and made Knoxville the underwear capital of the world.
Yeah, and that might be funny to anybody that doesn't wear underwear, but everybody who does wear underwear, it's an important item.
In Knoxville, Jim Matheny, WBIR 10 News.
When I first come in those big steel doors out there, I thought to myself, what have I done? And I literally thought I would die right here at Brushy Mountain Prison.
Robert Gibson is a free man, got out of prison in 2011, but he had good reason to think he would die here. In the late 1970s, a murder conviction sent him to Brushy with a 99-year sentence, and death lurked around every corner.
The most violent place in Tennessee you could be. And I've seen many men stabbed and beat to death right here in this breezeway. Get trapped in here and with somebody on that end where they couldn't get out. You can't get away. If you're a snitch and you run your mouth and those type things, eventually somebody's gonna get to you.
When Gibson arrived at Brushy, he was 18 years old and illiterate. But he read the situation. He could be predator or prey.
I was wicked, had a wicked heart, wicked mind, wicked thoughts. You see those vents back there? We would take those vents off and make homemade knives out of them.
This institution here is the worst place on earth. They perpetrating murders up here.
You've got people with 150 years.
That's Gibson in 1978, from a WBIR story he never saw in prison, until now.
Wow. Ain't that something? I don't... Hey, now some of these guys right here, and I'm telling you, some dangerous guys now, buddy.
Warden Stoney Lane gave WBIR unprecedented access for a brutally honest look. Life at Brushy, where 3 inmates were recently killed.
And that's certainly 3 too many, but in the type of atmosphere and the type of confinement you have, it's not surprising.
Stoney Lane was one of the best wardens that ever come into Brushy Mountain Prison. Did his job, was the warden, but he treated men like men.
Lane's mutual respect for inmates made him extremely popular. But his replacement, Herman C. Davis, had an unforgiving reputation.
Nobody had no respect for Herman C.
And Gibson says the approach added sparks to an explosive environment. After a couple of years of inmate attacks, paybacks, and building tension, 2 groups were ready to kill each other.
It wound up being kind of a black and white thing, but it wasn't racial. It just happened to be black and white.
The prison sent the black inmates to Nashville to split up the groups. But in 1982, the warden brought the same men back to Brushy.
And put them right in the same unit with us. So there we are. You got a choice. We would cut our bars out. That's where hacksaw's been cutting on that bar. You bend them 2 bars out, you can get a body through there.
Inmates hid the damage to the bars by filling the cuts with soap and paint. Gibson won't say exactly who or how, but someone smuggled a gun inside the prison. And reports at the time say a guard was fired for failing a lie detector test.
You got crooked guards inside the prisons, and money will talk on the outside, money will talk on the inside.
In February 1982, Gibson and 6 others made their move. First, by taking the guards hostage.
You come out on him. You got a knife on him. Where can he go? What can he do?
But the guards were not their target.
Forced the guards to stay down there and tuck their keys, tuck the .25 automatic to the cells of these people. They were shot in their cells.
The black inmates were fish in a barrel. They shot and killed 2 men, then shot 2 others who found a way to survive.
Somebody shooting a .25 automatic at him. Well, he come up with a mattress backwards, and that's the only reason he lived, and I thank God he lived. If Herman C. Davis, if he would have came in, we was going to shoot him, and I thank God he didn't.
And after the shots were fired, the guards were set free and the prisoners surrendered without resistance.
This problem that erupted here Monday night didn't just come up overnight.
Even the guards say the warden knew or should have known that violence was about to occur.
They didn't tell me. If the officers knew, they should have done something about it.
While the warden and the guards were in their own power struggle, Gibson and the others were nicknamed the Magnificent Seven.
It was the first court appearance for the inmates.
This old footage of their first court appearance is damaged, but even with a bad tape, you can see enough to know they were not bothered by murder and kidnapping.
There I am, look at that. BJ, John Henry Brown, they're all dead.
Yeah, that's me, what it is. Oh, you ain't crazy.
That was me. I had a foolish heart, had a wicked heart, and until I met Jesus, that was me. And that's why I always say I deserved every day that I done in prison.
The shooting at Brushy tacked on decades to Gibson's sentence, and he spent the next 4 years in solitary confinement.
So people in prison were saying there's no hope for Robert Gibson. January 5th, 1988, I got born again. Not to get out of prison, but because I was a sinner.
Gibson says most people were skeptical that someone who was an absolute demon was suddenly trying to be an angel.
No, they didn't trust me overnight. They said, just wait on, just hold on, you'll see.
But Gibson learned to read by reading the Bible. And after many years as a model inmate who helped others do the right thing, the state released Gibson in 2011.
I do not deserve to be standing right here today, free in society with no more time. And the only reason that I am is because of Jesus. Only reason that I am. Don't deserve it. Don't deserve it. But he's good. He's a good God.
He still visits the inmates and ministers at the new prison in Morgan County as a man who genuinely changed his life from a violent predator to become a man who prays.
Brushy Mountain has a history. There's been many of them get killed. And I've seen that and experienced that and don't want no more of it. You know, I've done my time and I try to give society back positive from where I was negative.
In Morgan County, Jim Matheny, WBIR 10 News.